Shamai, I have got flatwounds on my Flight Mini JB bass. So yeah, there are flatwounds on this bass, but it isn't quite as straightforward and as simple as it seems. Watch the rest of this video. But basically, I've put these flatwounds on here over 3 weeks ago, and there is good reason why I've left it this long to make this video. So the flatwounds I put on it are these. There's the original strings from here. They are originally made for the Gold Tone Micro bass, okay, which is a 25-inch scale instrument. They are made by MBLS. They were fairly reasonably priced, but they're meant for piezo pickups. So I had been reliably informed that these strings would fit with a magnetic pickup as well. So they arrived, I fitted them on here, and it wasn't quite as straightforward as I hoped it to be. Basically, on the E string here, as I was putting them on, they unraveled a little bit, okay? But as I was doing the job, which you're going to see in a moment, I thought, right, well, these strings were meant for this bass. They're not going to fit any other basses. Again, I will show you that in a moment as well. But basically, I thought, right, in for a penny, in for a pound. I am going to finish off putting the strings on here. This one, the E string, is still holding 3 weeks afterwards. Okay, having played bass instruments for most of my life, I have seen strings do this quite often. They look horrific, but they hold. So I decided, right, I am not going to show you this video till I am happy that they haven't just snapped. Right, let's take a look at me putting these strings on this bass. So, lengthwise, I know these are a bit too long. Just to give you an idea, all right, here is the E string. All right, how do I know? Because it's got a little number on it. And if I hold it here, the actual wound length, I suppose you'd call it, goes up past the actual tuning peg. It's not ideal, but when I go to cut it in a minute, I will be cutting it on the binding. So I shouldn't get any unwinding, hopefully. And I'm guessing these are actually a slightly heavier gauge than the round wounds that are on there. So I am probably going to have to file the nut down a little bit. But my first thing is, do they work? Now, I suspect they do because there is enough metal on here that the actual magnets are picking it up on the pickups. But there's only one way of finding out. Let's do it. Definitely got enough length with the string here on the G. Just before I start though, I'm going to very quickly have a little look at the other basses because I do think these strings are going to be way too long. Here's the Flight, and if I hold this here, you can see that is really overly long here, okay? But as I said, I've got these because I really want to put them on the Mini JB. Here's the Blackstar. Let's have a little look. Yeah, again, you can see the binding doesn't start. It's way past. Okay, now it's going to be like that on the other strings because of the shape of the headstock with this one. But, you know, there's a chance it will fit on you, but that's not what today's job is about. And just in case you were thinking about these for Carla, but Carla do make their own flatwound. There are, I'm just holding it here. Again, we can see that they are pretty long. I'm not saying they wouldn't work, but we know that the Carla flatwounds definitely work on this. I'm going to start with the E. I suspect this is going to be the one that causes me the most hassle, just because it goes further up. As I do other strings, it'll become more obvious what I mean. All right, well, the first thing, it does sit in the nut. I'm going to probably just make a little bit more room for it, but it definitely sits in there okay. Now, it won't fit, this bit won't fit through here at the minute, but that's not the bit that's really got to go through there. It's going to be this thin bit here. I don't know whether or not to just cut it now and be done with it. I'm going to just take a tiny little bit off the nut here. Oh, am I? No, let's make sure it all works first. All right, it's in there enough. Okay, right, I'm going to cut it. So it does say 2. I'm going to go 3 for now, all right? There may well be too much wound on here, but as I said, I can always cut it again. That is the area there where it goes from the thicker to the thinner. In for a penny. See, that's the bit that needs to be able to fit into the slot, and it does. Oh, if I move it like that and give myself a bit more room. Okay, the string is on. I think it's up to tune. It's a bit of a mess in that I can see the string there has pulled apart a little bit, but whether or not it's going to snap is something else. So the next thing I want to do is plug the bass in to see if it actually is picking up with the magnetic pickups. Well, it's working. As I said, it's not pretty in that I can see there is little gaps appearing with the string, but it certainly hasn't snapped. And realistically, that's the worst one, because that's the one that's got so much of the bare string going around the actual tuning head. But as you can hear, that is picking up all right. Now the question is, do I crack on and see if the others fit? I think so, because at the end of the day, I've bought these strings for this bass. And if they're not going to go on this one, well, I've already possibly messed this up, so I might as well see if the others will work. Okay. So the A string, there will be a tiny bit of string, you know, a sort of bare string around there, but the majority of it is going to be the binding one. This one, realistically, I probably should take the nut down, but I don't want to, because there's a good chance I'm going to be putting the original strings back on if this breaks. Okay, let's cut it anyway. So, and of course, these are different to the rubber U-base strings or polyurethane, because you don't tie these, you push them in, and then you can very neatly, the idea is anyway, tighten them up. But remember, you're going from top to bottom and don't have the string overlapping. Okay, that's the A string done. Not too much drama with that. D string next. I am putting these little numbers back on the original strings. You can tell which one's which. This just makes life a bit easier, doesn't it? Where's number 3 gone? See, suddenly now I'm actually cutting off a lot less because this headstock is, you know, they're going longer because of the design. So there's a string tree on this one. Obviously, you've got to make sure the string goes underneath that. Again, that's sitting in the nut. All right, there's no real need for me to take that down at the minute. Okay, so far so good. I shouldn't have said that out loud, should I? And of course, with the extra length of the G string on this, this is why the Technicallt flatwounds may well fit. I just can't tell. But I don't think I'm going to have a problem with this one. Because, as you can see, there is plenty of length on that. Okay, there's a good 7 or 8 inches, maybe even a little bit more extra string length on here. Okay, they're all on. They seem to be in tune. I'll show you a close-up of that in a minute. I just want to plug in just to make sure there is some sound coming off it to start with. So right, so I am really happy with the G, the D and the A. They have all gone on. I may, if I remain happy, just file down the nuts a little bit. They don't seem to be moving around in there at all, all right? But the E, it's always the E string, isn't it? The E string is on. I'm going to show you a close-up in a second. It's a bit messy. Okay, so hang on. Underneath there, all right, it looks a bit of a mess, but only time is going to tell whether or not that string is going to hold. I have seen far worse strings than that on other instruments. It could be that it'll last like that for a long time. It could be that it'll snap within the next few minutes. I don't know. But again, we're at the point of it works. It's just not perfect yet. Right, I'm going to have a play of it and see if the string holds out. Okay, the flatwounds are on. They seem to be working absolutely fine with the pickups. Remember what I said, these are not meant for magnetic pickups. These strings are meant for a piezo pickup, and I'm pretty sure it even says not to be used with fretted basses or anything like that. But it works, and as I said, I was reliably informed by several people that these would work. They do. Right. So, the strings themselves, as I said, made for the gold tone micro bass by MBLS. Okay, and one of the reasons why I really just wanted to try these, we've talked about prices. The Carla flatwounds are $55, which, yeah, that's a reasonable price. But to get them here to the UK, the shipping doubles the price, basically. These were 40, hang on. These were $42.99, but the shipping was $8.95. So the total, $52.58, which after it was converted and things, it was 40, I think it was something like 43 quid. Now that's a massive difference, 43 quid and about 80 or even 90 quid for some of the other strings at the minute. I did try and get the Carla strings from Sweetwater. They wouldn't ship them to the UK. Worth asking though. So yeah, strings by mail. They are US based, but very reasonable shipping cost. And I've bought quite a few sets of strings from them in the past. So yeah, gold tone by MBLS for the micro bass by Gold Tone, 25-inch scale. They do fit the Flight Mini JB. They do work, but the E string has, well, it stretched whilst I was putting it on. It hasn't stretched anymore. So yeah, it was a relatively straightforward job. They went on as they should have done, but it's always dodgy putting that much string around, especially when it's not bound up. We're just going to have to wait and see, and obviously if things change I will let you know. But there we are. Yeah, the Gold Tone by MBLS. They are the same gauge as the Carlas, I believe, 0.049, 0.069, 0.089 and 0.109. Very, very similar. Slightly thicker gauge than what was on here originally. So it's going to be really interesting to see if that actually changes the tone as well. But in terms of playability, I can't wait to have a good go with this. I did have a few audio issues when I made the original video of this, so I have just tried to do a little sound demo now with this. Hopefully it's going to show you the difference, what they sound like now with the flatwounds on compared to the roundwounds originally. And yeah, I have really been giving the E string a fair bit of welly with this over the last few weeks, and I have played the bass almost every day, and it hasn't changed at all from when I put the string on. Do I like the flatwounds on here? Yes, I do. I love playing flatwounds anyway, but me personally, I think that the slightly heavier gauge and of course the combination with the flatwounds really makes this Jazz Flight JB sound awesome, and it's lovely to play too. Can I recommend putting these on your Flight Mini JB? It's a really tough one. They're not made for this bass, but the G, the D and the A are brilliant on here. The E, it could be that your E string goes on here perfectly with no issues at all. It could be your E string comes on here and you snap it. I just can't guarantee. But at the minute, I really wanted to try flatwounds on here. I love the flatwounds on here, so these are staying on here. And if it snaps, then I'll have to think again. But of course, I've still got the original strings. Apologies for the lack of videos and contents the last few weeks. It's crazy season in school at the minute. It's coursework. I'm hoping within another week it shall all be done. But I am literally, if I'm not in school at the minute, I'm sorting out school work. So sorry about that. So that's my Flight Mini JB bass, but with flatwounds on that work at the minute, and they've been working for a few weeks now. I do hope you've enjoyed this video, maybe found it helpful. I know that it's just such a deep hole you go down when you start looking for different strings for these mini basses, because they are so new still at the minute, okay? If you want to support me here on Ukulele Wales, I do have a Patreon page, and I'll drop a link in the description below for that. But as always, if you've got any normal comments or questions, please feel free, leave them below. Give us a like if you've enjoyed, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on new videos. Thank you for watching.